The champagne glass hit the floor, and Jae-Sung's knees buckled right there in the middle of the Atlanta ballroom. His face went gray, pale like someone drained all the blood out of him in seconds, and Seraphine watched from across the room where she'd been clearing dessert plates from table 7. Everything happened so fast. His bodyguards rushed forward, but they were shouting at each other in Korean, confused, panicking, and Jae-Sung collapsed completely. His luxurious suit crumpled as he went down, and people started screaming. The whole gala turned into chaos. Women in fancy dresses backing away, men yelling for doctors, everyone pulling out phones. But Seraphine didn't freeze. She dropped her tray and ran. Her supervisor would probably fire her for leaving her station, but she didn't care, because something in her gut told her this man was dying. She'd seen this before, back in Rwanda when her uncle got poisoned by bad water during the conflicts. The same gray skin, the same way his body just gave up. "Move," she said, pushing through the bodyguards who were still arguing. "Move." The biggest one grabbed her arm. "You cannot. He's dying," Seraphine snapped, dropping to her knees beside Jae-Sung. His eyes were rolling back, and foam gathered at the corner of his mouth. She'd worked as a server for 3 years to pay for nursing school, and she'd learned enough to know poison when she saw it. "How long since he drank anything?" "What? 2 minutes? Maybe?" "Get me salt, now, and water. Warm water." She tilted Jae-Sung's head to the side so he wouldn't choke. His pulse was there but weak, so weak under her fingers. "Someone call 911, but he won't make it if we don't get this out of him." Another bodyguard appeared with salt and a bottle of water. Seraphine mixed it fast, her hands shaking but steady enough. She'd done this for her uncle, and it had saved his life long enough to get real help. "Hold him up," she ordered, and surprisingly, they listened. Maybe because they were desperate. Maybe because she sounded like she knew what she was doing. She got the salt water down Jae-Sung's throat and waited. 10 seconds. 20. Then his body convulsed, and he threw up everything. The bodyguards jumped back, but Seraphine stayed close, making sure he didn't choke, making sure he kept breathing. The ambulance arrived 6 minutes later, but Jae-Sung was already breathing easier. His color was coming back. Not great, but better. The paramedics loaded him onto a stretcher, and Seraphine stood there with vomit on her uniform and her supervisor glaring at her from across the room. "You're fired," the woman said flatly. "You left your station. You made a scene." "I saved his life," Seraphine shot back, but she was already untying her apron. Whatever. She'd find another job. She always did. One of the bodyguards approached her, the one who'd grabbed her arm earlier. He was tall, scary-looking, but his expression had changed. You come, with us, to hospital." "Why would I?" "Mr. Choi will want to thank you." "Mr. Choi can thank me from his hospital bed. I need to find another job now." Seraphine turned to leave, but the bodyguard stepped in front of her. "Please," he said, and something in his voice made her stop. "He would have died. We did not know what to do. You saved boss's life." Seraphine hesitated, looked at her ruined uniform, then at the ambulance pulling away. She sighed. "Fine, but only because I want to make sure he's okay." The hospital waiting room smelled like bleach and bad coffee. Seraphine sat in a plastic chair, still wearing her stained uniform, while Jae-Sung's bodyguards paced and made phone calls in rapid Korean. She caught bits and pieces. Something about security, about finding who did this, about someone named Haiwan. 3 hours later, a doctor came out. "He's stable. We pumped his stomach and he's on IV fluids. He'll recover fully, but another few minutes and the toxin would have reached his heart. Whoever helped him initially saved his life." All eyes turned to Seraphine. She shifted uncomfortably. "I just did what anyone would do." "No," the bodyguard from earlier said firmly. "Not anyone. You." A nurse appeared, He's asking for you. The woman who helped him. Seraphine followed her down sterile hallways to a private room where Jae-Sung lay propped up on pillows. He looked terrible, pale and exhausted, with an IV in his arm and monitors beeping steadily. But his eyes were sharp when he looked at her. "You're the waitress," he said. His English was good but heavily accented. "Seraphine," she corrected, moving closer. "How are you feeling?" "Like someone tried to kill me." He attempted a smile, but it came out more like a grimace. "Apparently you stopped them." I recognize the signs. I've seen poisoning before." "In America?" "In Rwanda, before we came here." Seraphine pulled up a chair without asking. She was tired of standing. "I worked in a medical clinic during bad times. You learn things." Jae-Sung studied her for a long moment. "You are very young to have seen such things." "I'm 25. Old enough." She crossed her arms. "Do you know who poisoned you?" "I have suspicions." His jaw tightened. "But that is not your concern. What is my concern is that I owe you my life, and I always pay my debts." "You don't owe me anything, I always pay my debts," Jae-Sung repeated, and there was steel in his voice now. The kind that made it clear he was used to being obeyed. "Your supervisor fired you. I will compensate you for the job loss and ensure you never worry about employment again." Seraphine shook her head. "I don't need charity." "It is not charity. It is payment for services rendered." He shifted in the bed and winced. "What do you do when you are not saving lives at galas?" "I'm in nursing school. Emory University. I worked to pay tuition." "Then your tuition is paid. All of it. And you will work for me." "Doing what exactly?" "Whatever you wish. I need people I can trust around me, and you—" He paused, something almost like respect crossing his features. "You ran toward danger when everyone else ran away. That is rare." Seraphine wanted to argue, but the truth was, she desperately needed money. Her younger brother's medication didn't pay for itself, and their mother sent money back to family in Kigali whenever she could. Pride was expensive. "I'll think about it," she said finally. "Good." Jae-Sung closed his eyes, exhaustion catching up. "Hyun-woo will give you his contact information. Call him tomorrow." The bodyguard from earlier, apparently named Hyun-woo, walked her out. He handed her a business card and an envelope. "For tonight. For your uniform. For everything." Seraphine opened the envelope and nearly dropped it. There had to be $5,000 in cash inside. "This is too much." "No," Hyun-woo said seriously. "It is not enough. You gave boss his life back. We give you this. Is fair." She wanted to refuse, but her brother needed his medication, her mother needed help with rent, and Seraphine needed to not work 3 jobs while trying to finish nursing school. "Tell him I'll call," she said quietly. Hyun-woo bowed slightly. "Thank you. Truly." Seraphine did call, 2 days later after she'd talked herself in and out of it about 50 times. Jae-Sung answered on the second ring. "So you decided to accept my offer," he said, sounding pleased. "I haven't decided anything. I need to know what working for you actually means." "It means you will be compensated well for your time. It means you will finish school without financial stress. It means—" He paused. "It means I would like to see you again. To thank you properly." Something in his tone made her stomach flutter, which was ridiculous. This man was clearly involved in dangerous business, the kind that got people poisoned at fancy galas. She should run in the opposite direction. "Dinner," she said instead. "Somewhere normal. Not fancy. And you explain everything." "Agreed. Tomorrow night?" "Fine. But I picked the place." She picked a small Ethiopian restaurant in Clarkston, where her mother worked part-time. Neutral ground. Somewhere she felt safe. If Jae-Sung was disappointed by the choice, he didn't show it when he arrived the next evening dressed down in jeans and a simple black shirt. "You look better," Seraphine observed as he slid into the booth across from her. "I feel better. Thanks to you." He glanced around the restaurant with genuine interest. "I have never tried Ethiopian food." "Rwandan cuisine is similar. Lots of stews, injera bread. You'll like it." "Probably." She ordered for both of them, watching him carefully. "So, talk. What exactly do you do that gets you poisoned at charity galas?" Jae-Sung smiled slightly. "I run businesses. Import, export, some investments." "That's the legal answer. What's the real answer?" "You are very direct." "Life's too short not to be." Seraphine leaned forward. "If I'm going to work for you, or even consider working for you, I need the truth." He was quiet for a moment, then nodded. "Fair enough. My family has controlled certain interests in Atlanta's Korean community for 3 generations. Import businesses, yes, but also protection services, gambling establishments, lending operations. What Americans might call organized crime, though we prefer to think of it as community support." "You're a gangster." "I prefer businessman with complicated ethics." But he said it with a slight smile that suggested he knew how that sounded. The Gala poisoning was likely done by a rival family, or possibly, his expression darkened, someone closer to home. "Family? My father recently passed. I inherited his position. Not everyone in the family was pleased with this choice." The food arrived and they ate in silence for a bit. Seraphine watched him try the injera bread, saw him figuring out how to scoop up the wat stew with it, and felt oddly charmed when he actually seemed to enjoy it. "This is excellent," he said. "Complex flavors." "My mother would be pleased to hear that. She helped create the menu here." Seraphine took a sip of water. "So you have family who want you dead. Rivals who want you dead. Why would I possibly want to get involved in this?" "Because," Jae-Sung said carefully, "you are already involved. You saved my life. Word has spread. People know who you are now." Ice dropped into Seraphine's stomach. "What do you mean people know?" "It means you are safer with me than without me. It means I can protect you, and your family, from anyone who might see you as leverage against me." He met her eyes steadily. "I did not mean for this to happen, but it is the reality now. So, I don't actually have a choice." "You always have a choice, but I am offering you the best option available." Seraphine wanted to throw her water in his face. She wanted to storm out. But he was right, damn him. She jumped into this mess with both feet the moment she'd run to help him. "Fine, I'll work for you. But I want everything in writing. Tuition paid, my family protected. And I want to keep going to school, no matter what." "Done." Jae-Sung extended his hand across the table. "Do we have an agreement?" She shook it, his grip warm and firm, and tried to ignore how her heart sped up at the contact. "We have an agreement. But this doesn't mean I trust you." "Good," he said seriously. "Trust should be earned. I will earn yours." The first month was weird. Seraphine kept going to classes like normal, but now she had a bodyguard, a quiet woman named Ji-yoon, who dressed like a college student and blended in surprisingly well. Her tuition was paid in full. Her brother's medication bills disappeared. Her mother cried when Seraphine handed her an envelope of cash and said not to worry anymore. And Jae-Sung, he called every few days, usually with some excuse, needing her opinion on something, asking about school, checking if she needed anything. The conversations were stilted at first, but gradually got easier. "How is biochemistry?" he asked one evening while she was studying in her apartment. "Brutal. Professor Yang doesn't believe in curves." "Yang. Korean. Third generation. He's harder on the Korean students than anyone else. Seraphine flipped a page in her textbook. Says we're supposed to set the standard. Sounds like my father. There was something bitter in Jae-Sung's voice. He believed in very high standards. Did you meet them? Silence for a moment. Not according to him. But then, no one ever could. He cleared his throat. There is an event this weekend. A gallery opening. I would like you to accompany me. Why? Because people expect me to appear publicly, to show I am not afraid after the poisoning. And because... He hesitated. Because I enjoy your company. Seraphine's pencil paused mid-note. That was unexpectedly honest. I don't have anything to wear to a gallery opening. I will send something appropriate, just come, please. She should say no. This was getting too personal, too complicated. But instead she heard herself say, okay, but nothing too fancy. I can't walk in those ridiculous heels. His laugh was warm through the phone. Noted. Comfortable shoes only. The dress arrived 2 days later. Deep burgundy with a flowing skirt and a fitted top that somehow looked both elegant and understated. The shoes were flats, as promised, and there was a note in neat handwriting. Thank you for saying yes, JS. The gallery opening was in Midtown, and Jae-Sung picked her up himself, driving a sleek black car that probably cost more than her entire education. He looked devastating in a dark suit, but what surprised her was how his face lit up when he saw her. You look beautiful, he said simply. The dress helps, Seraphine replied, smoothing down the skirt nervously. No, you help. The dress just compliments. The gallery was showing contemporary Korean artists, and Jae-Sung moved through the space with easy confidence. People approached him constantly, some with respect, others with barely concealed suspicion. He kept Seraphine close, introducing her as my friend, without elaboration. That painting, she said, stopping in front of a large canvas covered in stark black brushstrokes. What does the card say about it? Jae-Sung leaned in to read the small print. It is called Han, a Korean concept, difficult to translate. Collective grief, maybe, or unresolved sorrow passed through generations. We have something similar in Kinyarwanda. Ubabaro. The pain that stays in your bones even after the wound heals. Yes, he said softly. Exactly like that. They stood there together, looking at the painting, and something shifted between them. Some understanding that didn't need words. A woman's voice cut through the moment. Jae-Sung, how lovely to see you up and about. They both turned. The woman was stunning. Sharp features, expensive clothes, and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. She looked Korean, probably late 20s, and the way she looked at Jae-Sung made Seraphine's skin prickle with instinctive dislike. Hey Wan, Jae-Sung said coolly, I did not know you were in Atlanta. I came as soon as I heard about your incident. I was so worried. Haewon's gaze flicked to Seraphine dismissively. And who is this? A friend. How nice. You always did collect strays. The insult was wrapped in silk, but it was still an insult. We should speak privately, Jae-Sung, about family matters. I have nothing to discuss with you. But I have much to discuss with you. Haewon's expression hardened. Your father promised me certain considerations before he died. Considerations you have been ignoring. My father promised many things he should not have. I am correcting his mistakes. Is that what you call it? Haewon's laugh was brittle. Breaking a marriage agreement is not correction, it is dishonor. Seraphine's head snapped toward Jae-Sung. Marriage agreement? A business arrangement, he said tightly. One I never agreed to. Your father agreed. That is enough in our culture. Haewon touched his arm possessively. We have been promised to each other since we were children. Or have you forgotten? I have forgotten nothing, which is precisely why I want nothing to do with you or your family. Jae-Sung pulled his arm away. This conversation is over. It is not over. My family has invested heavily in yours. We expect returns on that investment. Then you should have made better business decisions. Haewon's face flushed with anger, but she smoothed it away quickly. You will regret this, Jae-Sung. Breaking faith with my family has consequences. She swept away, and Seraphine turned to him. Were you going to mention this marriage agreement thing at any point? It does not matter. I am not marrying her. Seems like it matters to her, and probably to whoever poisoned you. Jae-Sung's jaw tightened. You think she was involved? I think someone in your complicated family situation wanted you dead, and she just showed up conveniently after you survived. Call me suspicious. Seraphine crossed her arms. What else haven't you told me? Many things, as you have not told me many things about yourself. But his tone softened. Can we leave? This place has lost its appeal. They ended up at a late-night diner in Decatur, completely out of place in their formal clothes. Jae-Sung ordered coffee and pie, and Seraphine watched him add an alarming amount of sugar to his cup. Sweet tooth? She asked. Terrible one. My father said it was weakness. He stirred his coffee slowly. He said many things were weakness. Kindness, mercy, choosing your own path. Sounds like a difficult man. He was a hard man, effective but cold. He built an empire through fear and violence. I am trying to build something different. Is that possible? In your world? I do not know, but I must try. Jae-Sung looked at her directly. Haewon is right that our families had an arrangement. Her father and mine made a deal when we were children. Business merger disguised as marriage. But I was 12 years old. I had no say. And now that I am in charge, I am ending it. Even if it starts a war? Even then. Seraphine took a bite of her own pie. Apple. Warm. Perfect. You should know I'm not interested in being someone's relationship drama. I've got enough complications in my life. I understand. But... He hesitated. I value your friendship, Seraphine, and I hope it can become more than that. Someday, when things are less complicated. Her heart did that stupid fluttering thing again. Things in your life are never going to be less complicated. Probably not, he admitted with a slight smile. But perhaps you will decide the complications are worth it. Perhaps, she said, not committing to anything. But she didn't pull away when his hand brushed hers on the table, and she didn't miss how his eyes tracked the movement with something like hope. Things got messy fast after the gallery incident. Jae-Sung called 3 days later, sounding exhausted, and asked if she could meet him at his office in Buckhead. When Seraphine arrived, she found him behind a massive desk covered in paperwork, looking like he hadn't slept in 48 hours. You look terrible, she said bluntly. Thank you for the honesty. He gestured to a chair. Haewon's family has been making moves. Small things, disrupting shipments, bribing officials, spreading rumors about my legitimacy. They are testing my defenses. Can't you just, I don't know, sit down and negotiate? They do not want negotiation. They want submission. Jae-Sung rubbed his eyes. And there is something else. Someone in my organization is feeding them information. I have a leak. How do you know? Because they knew about 3 different operations before they happened. Someone close to me is betraying me. He looked at her seriously. Which is why I wanted to warn you. Be careful. Trust no one except Ji-yoon. Not my men. Not people at school. No one. Seraphine felt a chill run down her spine. You think they'll come after me? I think they will try to find any weakness they can exploit. And you. He paused. You matter to me. Which makes you a target. We've known each other 6 weeks. I know. His gaze held hers. But that does not change how I feel. The honesty in his voice made her chest tight. She stood up abruptly. I should go. I have an exam tomorrow. Seraphine, I'll be careful, I promise. She headed for the door but stopped with her hand on the handle. You should sleep. You can't run an empire if you're dead on your feet. Noted. A small smile crossed his tired face. Thank you for coming. That night, her apartment buzzer rang at 11 p.m. Seraphine checked the camera and saw her mother standing outside, which was wrong because her mother never left work this late. She buzzed her up immediately. Mama, what's wrong? Her mother, Claudine, was shaking. There were men at the house, looking for you. They said you owe them money. What? I don't owe anyone anything. They said you borrowed from a lender, that you haven't paid. They threatened Olivier. Her brother's name came out choked. They said if you don't pay, they will take him. Rage swept through Seraphine so fast she saw red. Those men lied. I never borrowed money. This is... She grabbed her phone and called Jae-Sung without thinking. He answered immediately. Seraphine? Someone just threatened my family, claimed I owe money I don't owe. Was this your leak or Haewon's family? Silence. Then, where are you? My apartment? Stay there, I am coming. He hung up before she could argue. He arrived 20 minutes later with Hyun-woo and 2 other men. Seraphine had made her mother tea and wrapped her in a blanket, but Claudine was still trembling. When Jae-Sung entered, his expression was ice cold. Tell me everything, he said. Claudine repeated the story in halting English. The men had shown up at their house in Clarkston around 9 p.m. They'd known Olivier's name, his school, his medication schedule. They'd been detailed in their threats. And they'd left a phone number for Seraphine to call. Jae-Sung looked at the number and something flickered in his eyes. I know who this is. A loan shark who works for the Hwang family, Haewon's cousins. He turned to Seraphine. This is retaliation. They are trying to frighten you into leaving my side. Well, it's working, Seraphine snapped. My brother is 15 years old. He has asthma. If they will not touch him. I promise you. Jae-Sung pulled out his phone and made a call in rapid Korean. The conversation was sharp, angry, and when he hung up, his jaw was set. Your family will stay at one of my properties tonight. Protected. Hyun-woo will arrange it. I'm not hiding, Seraphine said. You are not hiding. You are being smart. He moved closer, his voice softening. Please, let me keep them safe. This is my fault. Let me fix it. Claudine spoke up quietly in Kinyarwanda, and Seraphine translated automatically. She says she wants to know who you are to me. Jae-Sung looked at her mother directly. I am someone who cares for your daughter very much, and I will not let harm come to your family because of my enemies. You have my word. Your word means nothing if we end up dead, Seraphine said harshly. Then I will give you more than words. He turned to Hyun-woo. Move the family to the Brookhaven house. Full security detail. No one gets within a block without clearance. Yes, boss. Within an hour, her mother and Olivier were safely relocated to a beautiful house with 4 bodyguards and enough security to make Fort Knox jealous. Seraphine went with them to help them settle in, and her brother, tiny for his age and carrying his inhaler, looked at her with wide eyes. Sarah, who is that man? He whispered in French. Someone who's helping us, she said carefully. Is he your boyfriend? No, just a friend. He looks at you like he wants to be more than friends. Out of the mouths of 15-year-olds? Seraphine ruffled his hair. Worry about your homework, not my personal life. But Olivier's observation stuck with her. And when she finally went back to her own apartment at 3 a.m., escorted by Ji-yoon, who refused to leave her side, she found Jae-Sung still there, waiting in the hallway. "You did not have to stay," she said. "I wanted to make sure you got home safely." He stood up from where he'd been sitting against the wall. "I am sorry, Seraphine. I should have anticipated this. You can't predict everything. I should have predicted this. Haewon plays dirty, I knew that." He ran a hand through his hair in frustration. "Your family should not be paying for my choices." Seraphine unlocked her door and gestured him inside. "We need to talk. Really talk. About everything." They sat on her small couch, thrifted from Goodwill and covered in a throw blanket her mother had knitted. Jae-Sung looked completely out of place in the modest space, but he didn't seem to care. "Ask me anything," he said. "Why are you really fighting this marriage arrangement? Is it just because you want to make your own choices, or is there something else?" "Both. The arrangement was my father's way of controlling me even after death. And Haewon," he grimaced. "She is cruel. I have seen her hurt people for entertainment. She enjoys power and has no mercy. Marrying her would mean spending my life with someone I despise while giving her family control over mine. So this is about business. It started as business, but then I met you." He turned to face her fully. And suddenly the idea of marrying someone else became unbearable. "Jae-Sung, I know it is too soon. I know you barely know me. But I cannot lie about how I feel." His hand moved like he wanted to reach for hers, but he stopped himself. "You are brave and kind and honest in ways I have never experienced. You saved my life, and then you kept saving it just by being near me. I do not want to lose that." Seraphine's throat felt tight. "This is crazy. We're from completely different worlds. You're a crime boss. I'm a nursing student from Rwanda. This doesn't make sense." "The best things rarely do." She laughed despite herself. "That's a terrible argument." "It is the only one I have." His smile was crooked, vulnerable. "I am not asking you to decide anything tonight. I am only asking you to give me a chance to prove myself, to show you that what I feel is real. And if I can't, if this is too much, then I will accept that. But I will still protect your family. That promise has nothing to do with my feelings for you." Seraphine studied him, this dangerous, complicated, surprisingly honest man, and felt her resistance crumbling. "One chance. You get one chance to figure this out without getting us all killed. Understand?" "Understood." The relief in his face was palpable. "Thank you." He left shortly after, and Seraphine collapsed into bed, her mind spinning. What was she doing? This was insane. She should cut ties, take her family, and disappear. But even as she thought it, she knew she wouldn't. Something about Jae-Sung pulled at her. Maybe the vulnerability under his strength. Maybe the way he seemed lost despite all his power. Or maybe she was just an idiot who was falling for the wrong person. Probably that last one, she thought, and tried to sleep. The next 2 weeks were tense. Seraphine went to classes surrounded by discreet security. Her family stayed at the Brookhaven house and actually seemed to be thriving. Olivier loved the big backyard. Her mother appreciated not having to work 3 jobs anymore. But there was an edge to everything, like waiting for a storm to hit. Jae-Sung called every night. Sometimes they talked about serious things. His business troubles, her classes, the growing tension with the Hwang family. Other times they talked about nothing at all. "What is your favorite food?" he asked one evening. "Besides Ethiopian?" "Probably grilled fish with plantains. My grandmother used to make it in Kigali before everything fell apart. I would like to try it someday. I'll make it for you, when things calm down. Is that a promise?" "Maybe, if you survive long enough." His laugh was warm through the phone. "I will do my best." But surviving got harder. The Hwang family escalated. They attacked one of Jae-Sung's warehouses and burned it down. 3 of his men were injured. Retaliation came swift and brutal. Seraphine didn't ask for details, but she saw the exhaustion and guilt in Jae-Sung's face when he visited her at school. "This is getting worse," she said, watching him lean against her car in the Emory parking lot. "I know. When does it end? When one side surrenders, or—" He didn't finish the sentence, but they both knew what he meant. When someone died. "There has to be another way. If there is, I have not found it." He looked at her tiredly. "They want war. I am trying to contain it, but—" His phone buzzed. Then again. And again. Jae-Sung answered, and his whole body went rigid. "When? How many?" A pause. "I am coming." He hung up and looked at Seraphine. "Someone attacked the Brookhaven house." Her heart stopped. "My family. They are safe. My men stopped the attack. But—" He hesitated. "One of the attackers said they want to negotiate. They want a meeting." "That's a trap." "Probably. But if there is a chance to end this without more bloodshed, you can't go alone." "I will not. But I wanted you to know. In case." He reached out and took her hand. "In case something happens." Seraphine gripped his fingers hard. "Nothing is going to happen because you're going to be smart about this. You hear me? No heroic nonsense. You go in with backup, and you come back out alive." "I will try." "You'll do it. Because if you die, I'm going to be furious." Her voice cracked despite herself. "And I don't want to lose someone else I care about." Jae-Sung's expression softened. He raised her hand to his lips and pressed a kiss to her knuckles. Gentle, reverent. "I care for you too. More than is wise, probably. Definitely more than is wise." But she didn't pull away. The meeting was set for that night at a neutral location, an old factory in College Park that neither family controlled. Seraphine insisted on waiting at Jae-Sung's office with Hyun-woo, who looked grim but determined. "Boss is smart," he said in his careful English. "He will not take risks." "He's already taking a risk by going at all." "Maybe. But he is trying to end this. For you." Seraphine looked at him, sharply. "What do you mean for me?" "He wants you safe. He wants your family safe. Before you, Boss did not care so much about casualties. Now," Hyun-woo shrugged, "now he cares. Is good. Makes him better leader, but also makes him vulnerable." "You think caring about people is a weakness?" "I think caring about people gives enemies leverage, but I also think—" He paused, choosing words carefully. "I think what Boss feels for you is real, and real feelings are worth protecting." The hours crawled by. Seraphine tried to study but gave up after reading the same paragraph 6 times. She paced. She checked her phone. She prayed silently in Kinyarwanda, something she hadn't done since leaving Rwanda. Finally, her phone rang. Jae-Sung's name on the screen. "Are you okay?" She answered before the first ring finished. "I am okay." The meeting. It went differently than expected. Different how? Hae-won was there, and she made an interesting proposal. "I don't like the sound of that." "Neither do I, but we should discuss it in person. Can you come to the Brookhaven house? Your mother and Olivier are still there. We can talk together." Something in his tone made her uneasy, but she agreed. Ji-yoon drove her across town, and the house was blazing with lights when they arrived. Her mother rushed to hug her, and Olivier was there too, looking scared but trying to be brave. Jae-Sung stood by the window, his suit jacket gone and his shirt sleeves rolled up. He looked exhausted but uninjured, which made relief flood through her. "So, what's this proposal?" Seraphine asked without preamble. "The Hwang family has offered a truce. They will cease all hostilities, drop their claim on the marriage arrangement, and leave my organization alone." "That sounds too good to be true." "It is. The condition is—" He turned to face her. The condition is that I publicly appear to end my association with you, that I make it clear you mean nothing to me. They believe removing you from my life will weaken me. Will it? Yes, he said simply, but not in the way they think. It will weaken my resolve to fight fairly. It will take away the reason I am trying to build something better. Seraphine's mother said something sharp in Kinyarwanda, and Seraphine translated. She says this is a choice between love and survival, and she says you should choose survival. I do not want survival without. Jae-Sung stopped himself. I will not ask you to sacrifice your safety for me. But, Seraphine prompted, but I will ask you to trust me, to let me find another way. He moved closer. Give me 2 weeks. Let me figure out how to eliminate this threat permanently, and then perhaps we can see if what we are building can become something real. You're asking me to hide. I am asking you to be patient. There is a difference. Olivier spoke up suddenly in French. The man is trying to protect you, Sarah. Let him. You're 15. What do you know about it? I know that he looks at you the way Papa looked at Mama before the war. Her brother's voice was quiet but firm. I know that kind of look is rare. Maybe worth fighting for. Seraphine's chest ached. Their father had died in the genocide. She barely remembered him, but she remembered how he'd loved their mother. Fierce and absolute, and willing to do anything to keep his family safe. She looked at Jae-Sung. 2 weeks. You get 2 weeks to figure this out. But if you can't, if this becomes too dangerous, I'm taking my family and disappearing. Understood? Understood. He reached out and touched her cheek gently. Thank you for believing in me. I don't believe in you. Not yet. But she leaned into his touch anyway. Prove me wrong. The 2 weeks that followed were some of the strangest of Seraphine's life. She moved temporarily to a safe house in Roswell with her family, a sprawling property with gardens and a pool that felt more like a vacation resort than a hiding place. Olivier took online classes and actually seemed happy for the first time in months. Her mother planted herbs in the garden and cooked elaborate meals. And Seraphine tried to focus on her studies while her mind kept drifting to Jae-Sung. He called every night at exactly 9 p.m. How was your day? He asked on day 3. Weird. Peaceful. I'm not used to peaceful. She was sitting on the back porch watching fireflies. How's the war going? It is not a war anymore, more of a strategic standoff. He sounded tired. I have been gathering evidence, financial records, witness statements, proof of the Huang family's illegal operations. I am building a case to bring them down through legal channels. You're going to the police? To the FBI, actually. White-collar crimes, money laundering, corruption. If I can get the federal government involved, the Huangs will have bigger problems than our feud. That's actually smart. You sound surprised. I expected something more violent. Violence is easy. It is also temporary. This will end them properly. He paused. I am trying to be the man you think I could be, the one worthy of your trust. Seraphine's throat tightened. I never said you weren't worthy. You did not have to. I see it in your eyes sometimes. The doubt. The fear that I am too much like my father. His voice dropped. I see it because I fear the same thing. You're not like him. If you were, you wouldn't be trying so hard to change. I hope you are right. On day 7, something shifted. Hyun-woo showed up at the safe house looking grim. Boss asked me to bring you something, he said, handing Seraphine a folder. Evidence he has gathered. He wants you to see what he is working on. Inside were documents. Financial records showing the Huang family's shell companies, witness statements from people they'd hurt, photographs of criminal activity. It was damning. And at the bottom was a note in Jae-Sung's handwriting. So, you know I am serious. So you know I am trying to do this right. JS. This is enough to destroy them, Seraphine said slowly. Yes, Hyunwoo agreed, but it is also dangerous. If they find out he has this information, they'll kill him. They will try. Seraphine stared at the folder, then made a decision. Take me to him. I need to see him. Now. Boss said you should stay hidden. I don't care what he said. If he's putting his life on the line like this, I'm not sitting in a safe house pretending everything's fine. She grabbed her jacket. Either you take me or I'll find my own way there. Hyunwoo sighed but didn't argue. 20 minutes later, they were pulling up to Jae-Sung's office. He looked up in shock when Seraphine walked through the door. What are you doing here? You are supposed to be… I saw the folder. I saw what you're planning. She crossed the room and grabbed his hands. You can't do this alone. If they find out you're working with the FBI, they will not find out. I am being careful. You're being reckless. There's a difference. She squeezed his fingers. Let me help. Absolutely not. I will not put you in more danger. I'm already in danger. We established that weeks ago. She met his eyes. But if we're going to end this, if we're going to have any chance at a normal life, then let me be part of it. Let me do something other than hide. Jae-Sung stared at her for a long moment. Then he pulled her into a hug, sudden and tight and desperate. You are going to drive me insane with worry, he murmured against her hair. Good. Keeps you on your toes. She let herself lean into him, feeling his heartbeat against her cheek. So what's the plan? They worked through the night. Seraphine helped organize documents, create timelines, and identify patterns in the Hwang family's operations. Her nursing training made her good at details, at spotting inconsistencies and connecting pieces others missed. Here, she said around 2 a.m., pointing to a series of transactions. These payments line up with hospital visits. Someone in their organization is treating injuries that should have been reported to police. If we can identify the doctor, we can prove they are covering up violent crimes. Jae-Sung leaned over her shoulder to look closer. You are brilliant. I'm tired. There's a difference. But she smiled. How much more do we need? Enough to convince the FBI to move. Another few days, maybe a week. So we're close. We are close. Seraphine turned in her chair to face him. He was so near, close enough that she could see the exhaustion in his eyes, the faint shadow of stubble on his jaw. Without thinking, she reached up and brushed her fingers against his cheek. You need to sleep, she said softly. So do you. I will if you will. He caught her hand and pressed a kiss to her palm, warm and gentle. Stay here tonight. There are guest rooms. It is safer than driving back to Roswell this late. Okay. They ended up not sleeping. Instead, they kept working, kept talking, kept existing in the strange bubble of the late-night office where nothing outside seemed real. Jae-Sung told her about his childhood, growing up under his father's harsh expectations, never being allowed to show weakness, learning that love was a liability. He once told me that caring for people made you easy to control, Jae-Sung said, that the best leaders were the ones who felt nothing. That's a terrible way to live. I know that now. But for a long time I believed him. He looked at her. And then you came running across that ballroom floor and suddenly everything he taught me felt wrong. I didn't do anything special. You did everything special. You saw someone dying and you helped without hesitation, without asking what you would gain. You just helped. His voice roughened. No one in my world does that. Ever. Then your world needs better people in it. It does. It needs people like you. They fell asleep eventually, Seraphine curled up on the couch in his office and Jae-Sung in his desk chair. When she woke up, he'd covered her with his jacket, and there was coffee waiting on the table. The small kindness made her chest warm. On day 10, everything accelerated. Jae-Sung got word that the FBI was ready to move based on the evidence they'd provided. Raids were planned for the following week. All they had to do was keep the information secure until then. But that night, everything went wrong. Seraphine was back at the Roswell safe house when she heard breaking glass downstairs. Ji-yoon moved immediately, gun drawn. "Stay here," she ordered, pushing Seraphine toward the bedroom closet. But Seraphine could hear her mother's voice downstairs, frightened, and Olivier crying. She grabbed the baseball bat Hyunwoo had given her. "Just in case," he'd said, and crept toward the stairs. There were 3 men in the living room. One held her mother. Another had grabbed Olivier. The third was pointing a gun at Ji-yoon, who stood perfectly still with her hands raised. "Where is the girl?" the man with the gun demanded. "Not here," Ji-yoon said calmly. "Liar. We know she is staying here. Where is—" Seraphine stepped into view at the top of the stairs. "I'm here. Let my family go." The man smiled, cold and cruel. "Ah, the famous waitress. Come down." Slowly. She descended with the bat still in her hands. "What do you want?" "You know what we want. The evidence your boyfriend gave to the FBI. All of it. Every copy, every file, every piece of paper." "I don't have it." Jae-Sung kept everything separate. "Then you will convince him to give it to us, or your family pays the price." The man gestured and Olivier screamed as the one holding him twisted his arm. "Starting with your little brother." White-hot rage flooded through Seraphine. She swung the bat hard, catching the man with the gun in the knee. He went down howling and Ji-yoon moved, disarmed him, then turned on the other 2 attackers with brutal efficiency. The fight was short and vicious. When it ended, all 3 men were on the ground and Seraphine was shaking so hard she could barely stand. Her mother pulled her and Olivier into a fierce hug, and they clung together while Ji-yoon called for backup. Jae-Sung arrived 15 minutes later, moving so fast he nearly kicked down the door. He looked at the scene, at the 3 unconscious men, at Seraphine's family huddled together, at the bat still in her hands, and something in his face cracked. "Are you hurt?" He was at her side immediately, hands checking for injuries. "Did they—" "We're okay. Ji-yoon and we handled it." Seraphine set down the bat. "But they knew, Jae-Sung. They knew about the FBI." "I know." His expression was grim. "We have a leak. Someone told them everything." "Who?" "I am about to find out." He made 3 phone calls, each one sharp and commanding. Then he turned to her. "Family. You cannot stay here. I am moving you tonight. Somewhere even I will not know the location. Only Hyunwoo will have the information." "What about Seraphine?" her mother asked in French. Seraphine translated and added, "I'm staying with him. To finish this." "That is too dangerous." "Everything is dangerous now." She met his eyes. "We end this together, or we don't end it at all." Jae-Sung looked like he wanted to argue, but Hyunwoo spoke up quietly. "She is right, boss. You need someone you trust. Someone outside the organization. Someone they will not expect." After a long moment, Jae-Sung nodded. "Fine, but you do exactly what I say. No more heroics with baseball bats." "I'll consider it." They moved her family within the hour, to a location so secure even Seraphine didn't know where they were going. She hugged Olivier tightly and whispered, "I'll see you soon. I promise." "Sarah." Her brother held on. "Be careful, please. Always." Then she and Jae-Sung were alone in his car, driving through the dark Atlanta streets. "Where are we going?" she asked. "To flush out a traitor." His hands were tight on the steering wheel. "I have set a trap. Tonight we find out who has been selling information to the Hwangs." "How?" "By giving different versions of the same story to different people. Whoever's version the Huangs act on. That is my leak. That's actually clever. I have my moments. He glanced at her. Are you sure you want to be part of this? It may get ugly. I hit a man with a baseball bat 2 hours ago. I think I can handle ugly. His laugh was startled and genuine. Yes, I suppose you can. They ended up at one of his warehouses, the one that hadn't been burned. Inside, 3 of his senior men waited. Lee, a man in his 50s with a stern face, Park, younger and ambitious, and Cho, who'd been with the family for 20 years. Thank you for coming on short notice, Jae-Sung said. We have a problem. The FBI operation has been compromised. Someone leaked information to the Huangs. All 3 men looked appropriately shocked, concerned. But Seraphine watched their faces carefully. The way Lee's eye twitched, how Park's hands clenched, the way Cho's expression stayed too neutral. I am giving each of you a task, Jae-Sung continued. Time-sensitive and critical. The success of our operation depends on absolute secrecy. He handed each man a sealed envelope. Do not open these until you leave here, and speak to no one about the contents. Understood? They all agreed and left separately. Seraphine turned to Jae-Sung. Now what? Now we wait. Each envelope contains different instructions, different locations, different times, different details about the FBI raid. Whichever version the Huangs act on will tell me who betrayed me. How long? 2 days. Maybe 3. They waited in a safe apartment above the warehouse. It had 1 bedroom, a tiny kitchen, and windows overlooking the industrial complex. Jae-Sung ordered food, Korean fried chicken and rice, and they ate in companionable silence. I should not have let you stay, he said finally. If something happens to you, nothing is going to happen to me. We're going to figure this out. And then, we're going to have a very long, very boring life where the most exciting thing that happens is arguing over what movie to watch. That sounds perfect. It does, doesn't it? Seraphine smiled. Tell me something. If we survive this, if we actually make it through, what happens next? Next, I rebuild my organization into something legitimate. Real businesses, legal operations. I use the money and connections I have to create something good. He turned to her. And I spend every day proving to you that I am worth your time. You've already proven that, have I? You're here. You're trying. You're risking everything to protect my family and end this the right way. She reached across the table and took his hand. That counts for something. It counts for everything. They moved to the small couch, and Seraphine found herself tucked against his side, his arm around her shoulders. It felt right. Like a piece she hadn't known was missing had finally clicked into place. What will you do? Jae-Sung asked quietly. When this is over? Finish nursing school. Maybe work in a clinic in Clarkston. Help other immigrant families who need medical care but can't afford it. That is a good dream. What about yours? My dream? He was quiet for a moment. My dream is to wake up beside you every morning, to take you to dinner without worrying about assassins, to argue about what movie to watch, as you said. To build something normal with someone extraordinary. Seraphine's eyes burned. That's a good dream too. He tilted her chin up and pressed a kiss to her forehead, soft and lingering. Then let us fight for it. Together. Together, she agreed. On the second day, they got their answer. Hyunwoo called with news. The Huangs had moved a team to intercept what they thought would be the FBI raid. The location matched the envelope given to Park. He is young, Jae-Sung said heavily. Ambitious. I should have seen it. What will you do? What I must. But I will give him a choice first. He called Park and put it on speaker. I know it was you. Silence. Then. Boss, I do not lie. The Huangs are moving on the location from your envelope. You sold me out. They offered me control of the southern operations. They said you were weak now, that you cared more about some girl than... Enough. Jae-Sung's voice was ice. You have two choices. Turn yourself into the FBI with a full confession about the Huang family's operations, or face me directly. Choose. I will talk to the FBI. Good. Hyun-woo will escort you. And Park? If you run, if you try anything, I will find you. Understand? Yes, boss. The call ended and Jae-Sung sat down heavily. It is done. Park's testimony will give the FBI everything they need. The raids happen tomorrow. Then we won. We survived. That is not quite the same as winning. But he pulled her close. Though it feels close enough for now. The raids went off without a hitch. The Huang family was taken down in a coordinated operation that made national news. 18 arrests, including Haiwan herself, who screamed threats at the FBI agents even as they led her away in handcuffs. Jae-Sung watched the news coverage with something like relief. It is over. Finally over. Now comes the hard part, Seraphine said, building something new. Will you help me? With the building? She looked at him. This complicated, dangerous, surprisingly gentle man who'd somehow become the center of her world. Yeah, she said simply. I'll help. He kissed her forehead again, then both her cheeks, and finally her hand. Thank you. For believing in me. For staying. For being you. Thank me later. After we've survived the boring part. They reunited with her family the next day. Olivier practically tackled her, and her mother cried with relief. And through it all, Jae-Sung stayed close. Not interfering, but present. Watchful. Protective. Your man is good, Claudine said in Kinyarwanda when they had a moment alone. He's not my man. Not officially. He is yours. Anyone can see it. Her mother smiled. Your father would have liked him. They are similar. Willing to fight for what matters. I miss Papa. I know, child, but he would want you to be happy, to love again, to build something good from the ashes. She touched Seraphine's cheek. This man, he sees you. Really sees you. That is rare. Do not let fear make you lose it. Seraphine hugged her mother tightly and thought maybe, just maybe, she was ready to stop being afraid. 3 months later, things had settled into something almost normal. Jae-Sung was working with federal prosecutors to dismantle what remained of the Huang operations while simultaneously transitioning his own businesses toward legitimate enterprises. It was slow, complicated work, but he was determined. Seraphine returned to nursing school and discovered she'd somehow gotten ahead in her classes during all the chaos. Professor Yang was impressed enough to offer her a research position, which she accepted immediately. Her family moved into a nice house in Clarkston, not too fancy but safe and comfortable. And Olivier was thriving, making friends and even joining the school chess club. And Jae-Sung. Jae-Sung appeared in her life with increasing regularity. He picked her up from class and took her to lunch at that Ethiopian restaurant where they'd first talked. He showed up at her apartment with coffee when she was studying late. He sent flowers to her mother on her birthday and helped Olivier build a model airplane one Saturday afternoon. You know you don't have to do all this, Seraphine said one evening when he'd cooked dinner at her place. Korean beef stew. That was surprisingly delicious. I know, I want to. He added more rice to her bowl. Is it too much? No. Maybe. I don't know. She laughed. I'm not used to people taking care of me like this. Then get used to it, because I am not going anywhere. Even if I'm boring? Even if there are no more dramatic rescues or dangerous plots? Especially then, boring with you sounds perfect. They fell into a rhythm. Study dates where they'd sit in companionable silence. Movie nights where they argued over what to watch. He liked action films. She preferred documentaries. Weekend trips to the farmer's market where Jae-Sung would buy way too many vegetables because he was trying to learn how to cook properly. "This is ridiculous," Seraphine said, staring at the mountain of produce in his car. "We can't eat all this." "I will learn to make banchan, side dishes. It will be fine." "You're going to poison us both." "Then you will save me again. It will be romantic." She threw a radish at him, and he caught it, laughing. These moments, these simple, ordinary moments, felt more precious than anything that had come before. But not everything was perfect. There were still threats. Smaller now, but present. Former Hwang associates who wanted revenge. People in Jae-Sung's organization who resented the changes he was making. And always, always, the shadow of his father's legacy hanging over him. "Do you ever regret it?" Seraphine asked one night when they were sitting on her apartment balcony watching the city lights. "Walking away from the way things were?" "Sometimes," he admitted. "The old way was easier, more predictable. But then I look at you, and I remember why I am doing this." He took her hand. "I want to be someone you can be proud of. Someone your brother can look up to. Someone your mother does not secretly worry about. My mother likes you. She tolerates me. There is a difference. She likes you. She told me so. In Kinyarwanda, which means she was being honest." "What did she say exactly?" "She said you have kind eyes and strong hands, that you look at me like I'm precious, that you remind her of my father." Seraphine's voice softened. "That's the highest compliment she can give." Jae-Sung was quiet for a long moment. "I hope I am worthy of that comparison." "You are, but you have to stop doubting yourself so much. It is difficult. My father spent 30 years telling me I was not enough, that I was too soft, too weak, too human. Breaking free of that voice in my head it takes time. Then I'll remind you every day until you believe it. You are enough. You're more than enough." He pulled her closer and kissed her temple. "Thank you for being patient with me. Always." The real test came 4 months after the FBI raids. Jae-Sung had been planning a charity gala, using his family's money and connections to support refugee services in Atlanta. It was meant to be a statement that he was using his resources for good now, that the Choi family was changing. But 2 weeks before the event, someone tried to bomb his office. The device was crude, discovered by security before it could detonate. But the message was clear. Not everyone was happy with Jae-Sung's transformation. The police investigated but found no clear leads, and the threat hung over everything like a dark cloud. "Cancel the gala," Seraphine urged. "It's not worth the risk." "I cannot cancel. If I do, it shows weakness. It shows I can be intimidated." Jae-Sung paced his office. "This event is important. It represents everything I am trying to build. It represents a target. Anyone who wants to hurt you will know exactly where you'll be. Then I will increase security, but I will not hide." They argued about it for hours. Seraphine thought he was being stubborn and proud. Jae-Sung thought she was being overprotective. Finally, exhausted, they reached a compromise. "Fine," Seraphine said. "The gala happens, but I'm there with you. And if anything feels wrong, we leave immediately. Deal?" "Deal." The night of the gala arrived with unseasonable warmth for November. Seraphine wore a deep green dress, elegant but comfortable, with actual pockets, and felt her anxiety ratcheting higher with every passing minute. The venue was a renovated warehouse in West Midtown, beautiful and modern with soaring ceilings and walls of windows. Security was everywhere. Hyun-woo had personally vetted every staff member, every guest, every delivery. Metal detectors at the entrance, guards on the roof. It should have felt safe. It didn't. "You are worrying," Jae-Sung murmured as they greeted guests. Of course I'm worrying. Someone tried to blow you up 2 weeks ago. And failed. We are prepared now. Prepared isn't the same as safe. He took her hand and squeezed gently. I know, but we cannot live in fear forever. At some point, we must choose to trust that we have done enough. The gala proceeded smoothly. Speeches were made about refugee services, about giving back, about building community. Seraphine watched Jae-Sung speak about his own family's immigration story, how his grandfather had come to America with nothing and built an empire through sheer determination, how that legacy carried both darkness and light, how he was choosing to honor the light. People applauded. Some looked skeptical, but many seemed genuinely moved. And Seraphine felt a swell of pride watching him up there. Vulnerable and honest and trying so hard to be better. The trouble started during dinner. A waiter approached their table with champagne, and Seraphine felt something wrong in the way he moved. Too stiff, too focused. His eyes weren't on the glasses but on Jae-Sung, and his hand shook slightly as he poured. Wait, she said sharply. The waiter froze. Jae-Sung looked at her, then at the man, and his expression changed. I know you, he said quietly. You worked for Park. I did, the waiter said. His voice was bitter. Before, you destroyed everything. Before you sent him to prison and dismantled our operations. Before I stopped illegal activities, you mean? You betrayed us, betrayed the family, betrayed everything your father built. The waiter's hand moved toward his jacket, and Hyun-woo was there instantly, gun drawn. Do not, Hyun-woo said flatly. I should kill you both, the waiter spat. You and your foreign whore. Seraphine moved. She grabbed the champagne bottle and swung it hard into the man's arm before he could fully draw his weapon. Glass shattered, and the gun skidded across the floor. Guests screamed and dove for cover, and suddenly the beautiful gala was chaos. Hyun-woo tackled the would-be assassin and 3 other security guards appeared. The man was subdued within seconds, still cursing and spitting threats. Police sirens wailed outside. Jae-Sung pulled Seraphine close, checking her over frantically. Are you hurt? Did he? I'm fine. You're fine. That's what matters. But she was, shaking now, adrenaline making her knees weak. So much for a peaceful evening. I am beginning to think peaceful evenings are not in our future. Probably not. They gave statements to police, calmed panicked guests, and somehow salvaged enough of the evening to make the charity goals. But by the time they left, both of them were exhausted. Well, Seraphine said as they sat in Jae-Sung's car. That's twice now I've saved your life. You're starting to owe me a lot. I owe you everything. He wasn't joking. His expression was dead serious. Seraphine, there is something I need to say. You're scaring me. I am terrified, but I need to say it anyway. He took both her hands. I love you. I have loved you since you ran across that ballroom floor without fear or hesitation. I have loved you through every argument, every danger, every quiet moment. And I will love you for whatever time I have left on this earth. Her breath caught. And yeah, she knew that was cliché, but it was true. Her whole chest felt tight and warm and impossible. Jae-Sung, you do not have to say it back. Not yet. Not until you are ready. I only wanted you to know. To understand why I am fighting so hard to build something better. It is because of you. It has always been because of you. Seraphine kissed him then. Properly kissed him for the first time, not on the forehead or cheek or hand, a real one. I love you too, she whispered. You impossible, stubborn, surprisingly gentle man. I love you. Even though I keep nearly getting us killed, especially because of that. Life with you is never boring. They drove back to her apartment and sat on the couch talking until dawn. About everything. About nothing. About their hopes for the future and their fears about the past. About whether they wanted kids someday. Maybe eventually, if we survive long enough. And where they'd want to live. Somewhere quiet, with a good school district for Olivier. He is not your child, Jae-Sung pointed out. He's my responsibility, my family. If you're with me, you're with all of us. That's the deal. I would not want it any other way. The sun rose over Atlanta, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. And Seraphine thought that maybe, just maybe, they'd actually make it through this, together. 6 months later, things were genuinely stable. The last of the Huang associates had been arrested or driven out of Atlanta. Jae-Sung's legitimate businesses were thriving. He'd opened 3 new import shops and was partnering with the city on a community development project in Clarkston. And Seraphine had graduated nursing school with honors. Her graduation ceremony was small, but meaningful. Her mother cried. Olivier cheered so loud he embarrassed her. And Jae-Sung sat in the audience looking proud, which made her chest warm in the best way. Congratulations, he said afterward, handing her a bouquet of her favorite flowers. Sunflowers, bright and cheerful. You did it. We did it. You made it possible. You made it happen. There is a difference. They celebrated at that same Ethiopian restaurant where they'd had their first real conversation. This time, her whole family was there. Her mother, Olivier, even her aunt who'd recently arrived from Kigali. The table was crowded and loud with laughter and multiple languages flowing together. Jae-Sung fit in surprisingly well. He helped Olivier with his homework, complimented Claudine's cooking, and listened with genuine interest when her aunt told stories about Rwanda. He was trying, constantly trying to be part of this family he'd accidentally inherited. After dinner, he and Seraphine walked through downtown Atlanta. It was a perfect evening, warm but not hot, with a breeze that carried the smell of flowering trees. They ended up at Centennial Olympic Park, sitting by the fountain and watching people pass. I have a question, Jae-Sung said. That sounds ominous. It is significant. Turned to face her fully. I am planning to buy a house, something large enough for a family, with a yard and good schools nearby. And I was hoping, that you might want to be part of that decision. To choose it with me, as our home, not just mine. Seraphine's heart stuttered. You're asking me to move in with you? I am asking you to build a life with me, to make a home together, to... He hesitated, then pulled out a small box. To marry me, eventually. Not today, not next week, but someday. When you are ready. I want you to know my intentions are serious, that I am committed to this, to us. She stared at the ring. Simple, elegant, with a small diamond that caught the fountain lights. That's not a proposal. That's a pre-proposal? I do not want to pressure you, but I want you to know how I feel, what I am working toward. You're terrible at this, you know that? I know. I have no practice at being in love. Seraphine laughed and kissed him. Okay. Yes. Someday. When we're ready. When things are stable. When we've figured out how to live together without constant drama. So, never? Probably never. But we can try anyway. They sat by the fountain for hours, making plans and dreaming together. About the house they'd buy. Something with a porch so we can have coffee outside. And the life they'd build. Quiet, mostly, with occasional exciting moments. About how they'd navigate his complicated world while keeping her family safe. We will hire the best security and live very boring lives. I can do boring with you, Seraphine said. Good, because I am excellent at boring. You're terrible at boring, but I love you anyway. A year later, they bought the house. A beautiful craftsman in Decatur with 4 bedrooms, a big backyard, and enough space for her mother and Olivier to have their own wing. It needed work. The kitchen was outdated and the roof needed replacing, but it was theirs. They moved in on a Saturday with help from Hyun-woo and Ji-yoon and about 15 other people from Jae-Sung's organization. It was chaotic and wonderful, with furniture going in wrong directions and someone almost dropping a couch down the stairs. "This is a disaster," Seraphine said, surveying the mountain of boxes in the living room. "This is home," Jae-Sung corrected, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "Our disaster. Our home." That night, after everyone left and the house was quiet, they sat on the back porch drinking tea. Stars were visible despite the city lights, and fireflies danced through the overgrown garden that Claudine was already planning to renovate. "Do you ever miss it?" Seraphine asked. "The old life? The power and fear and respect?" "Sometimes," Jae-Sung admitted. "But then I look at this. At you. At your family who has become my family. At the life we are building. And I realize I do not miss it at all. This is better. This is what I was meant to find. Even though it's harder? Especially because it is harder. Easy things have no value. This, us. We are valuable because we fought for it." Olivier appeared in the doorway. "Sarah, can I ask you something?" "Of course." He came out and sat on the porch steps. "Do you think Papa would approve? Of Jae-Sung, I mean. Of all this?" Seraphine thought carefully. "I think Papa would care that we're safe, that we're happy, that we're building something good from the ashes of bad things. And I think," she looked at Jae-Sung, "I think he'd recognize a man who is trying his best to be worthy of his family. Yeah, I think he'd approve." "Good." Olivier smiled. "Because I like him. And I don't want to feel guilty about it." "You never have to feel guilty about finding family," Jae-Sung said quietly. "Family is what we choose to build together." Time passed. Seasons changed. The house became a home filled with laughter and arguments and life. Seraphine got a job at a community health clinic and loved it. Jae-Sung continued building his legitimate empire and started teaching business classes at the Korean Community Center. Olivier grew taller and more confident, eventually earning a scholarship to Georgia Tech. And through it all, through every challenge and joy and ordinary moment, Jae-Sung and Seraphine faced it together. On their wedding day, small ceremony, just family and close friends. Seraphine wore her mother's wedding dress altered to fit. Jae-Sung cried when he saw her, which made everyone else cry too. They exchanged vows in English and Korean and Kinyarwanda, promising to love and protect and choose each other every single day. "I never expected this," Seraphine said during their first dance. "When I ran across that ballroom, I thought I was just saving someone's life. I didn't know I was finding mine." "I knew," Jae-Sung said. "The moment you looked at me with those fierce eyes and told me I was going to live, I knew my life was never going to be the same." "Is that good or bad?" "It is everything." He kissed her forehead gently. "You are everything." They danced under the stars in their backyard, surrounded by everyone who mattered. And Seraphine thought about that night in Atlanta when everything changed. About the choice to run forward instead of away. About how sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do is care, but also how it's the only thing worth doing. Life with Jae-Sung was never boring. There were still challenges, still moments of fear, still nights when old enemies resurfaced. But they faced them together, building something beautiful and hard-won and completely their own. And really, that was all anyone could ask for. So if you made it this far, thanks for sticking with Seraphine and Jae-Sung's story. Sometimes love shows up in the most unexpected places, like a poisoned man at a gala and a waitress with the courage to act. If you enjoyed this journey, drop a like and let me know what you thought. And hey, maybe share your own stories of unexpected connections, because those are always the ones worth telling.